This is a remake of the reviews for the trade calls in the chat room. Again, this is just the trade calls inside of the chat room, trades that I call out, not trade copier trades. And this is for the past week, starting with the 26th all the way until the 30th. Now, there was a couple of different things that developed prior to getting into the chat room, and I mentioned this all throughout the chat room, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There were some opportunities that set up during the beginning of the London session. So starting September 16th, I'm going to be adding the London session back into the chat room schedule. So there's a total of 10 hours there. So we'll be trading from 3 a.m. New York time until 1 p.m. New York time. Now, obviously, I take breaks and things like that in between there. But for the most part, we'll be catching a lot of these trades that set up during the London session, and then there's really nothing to do at that point. I consider them just more or less chasing trades, and I don't chase trades like this. I'm going to wait, and these are the trades that I called out in the chat room. So we had a total of 171 pips. It was slow this week. No losing trades. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trades that I called out in the chat room. I'm going to briefly go through a couple of things that took place. I won't really cover the majors, but I'll point them out. I mean, they, for the most part, did the same thing. I'm sorry, the crosses, the yen crosses. So we had, in the middle of the week, we had a continuation breakout trade, which was really interesting. And there was a signal, there was the entry. It never actually triggered the entry. And then it gave us an opportunity to trade this little move before everything collapsed on Friday. And then I just stayed out of it from that point on. And then for the most part, the euro dollar did the same thing. It looked like it was bouncing, and then it just rolled right back over. Something, though, that I want to bring to your attention is on Thursday, I believe it was Thursday, there was a short-term opportunity to sell, and I could see that this was likely to go lower. But one of the things that I always say is that even though I can tell where it's likely to go, what are the conditions? How's the market reacting? What could affect my trade if I go short, let's say prior to that spike right there? What could have an impact on it? I've got to ask these questions. I got to take these into consideration. I got to see if there's anything out there that I could determine would actually cause something like this to happen. And I stayed out of going short on this one. It took a while for me to actually get an opportunity to trade this or even consider trading it because it just kept going lower and lower. I could see where it was likely to go based on Friday, the previous Friday's move. I won't get into the details about that, but we classify those moves into one or two different categories. I explained that in the chat room, and we talk about why I thought, price was going to go back even from Monday all the way back down to Friday's lows. So excluding that, though, the way the market's reacting, I just want to draw to your attention, it's still reacting, for the most part, the way we have seen it react, the market react and price react to, what traders are doing based on tweets and comments and rumors, Angela Merkel, Donald Trump, things about China, tariffs, all of that. It's causing the market to react so quickly. So there was a ECB comment here that created that spike. And had I sold that at any one of these levels, any one of these bearish candles, this retracement on that spike with that comment would have stopped me out. So what I'm getting at, one, the market's still acting the way it has been for the last 2 months. We need to be careful with that, which means fewer trades. And then the other issue is that I'm going to get fewer trades. So that is one of the reasons why it was so slow this week. I mean, 171 pips with no losses isn't bad, but in a normal week where we get breakouts, reversals, and things that are much more reliable as far as the price structure and the movement afterwards, even with economic data, I could expect to see 200, 300, 400, 500 pips. It happens. The market gives those opportunities. It's just not really providing me much of an opportunity lately. Dollar Swiss pretty much did the same thing. I mean, there was a range on Friday that we were looking at. It was about 15, 20 pips in the chat room. And I just didn't want to take anything in there. I mean, there was no reason to go long or short, even though I could see that it was likely to maybe spike up one more time, which it did. But one of the things, though, that I also need to take into consideration is that if I get into a trade like this and it's getting really close to the end of the week, really close to Friday's close, I don't want to get stuck holding a position through the weekend. So sometimes it's better for me to just stay out and wait until the following week. Again, providing fewer opportunities. On Friday, I've got to, take that into consideration, the possibility of getting stuck into a trade. Now, if I see a short-term move that I would normally trade, let's say if it was Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday in the afternoon, well, I really wouldn't. Not so much that I wouldn't worry about it, but if it was a good solid trade, maybe I would consider it. But going into the Friday close, you can see that I would just avoid it altogether. I would just stop looking because I don't want to get stuck into a trade that goes sideways. Dollar yen, for the most part, doing the same thing. So trades mostly on the pound dollar, and then the euro yen and the pound yen. And then we had the trade on the dollar Canadian. That was that bounce earlier in the week. That was on Tuesday as well. Friday, we were watching some economic data, and I mentioned this is the actual candle here on the economic calendar. This was on Friday, and it was dropping. And I said, it's not really, and I mentioned this in the chat room, the way I trade it, I would avoid going short based on the economic news, because usually with economic news, if it's still inside of this overall trading range, it's not likely to go too far, and I usually see the dollar Canadian reverse and go right back up the opposite direction. Now, that being said, I still didn't buy it, at that point. I just stay away from it. I don't trade the dollar Canadian all that much unless I see something really serious taking place in the commodities markets. Australian dollar, same thing. So again, the next video you'll see will be more or less me talking about the setups, looking at the daily time frames, and any possible expectations of a trade setting up maybe on Monday or Tuesday. Very often I say this quite a bit. Monday are usually typical Mondays where they go slow. They stay in really small trading ranges. However, Monday is a big holiday here in the United States. It's Labor Day weekend. It's the last holiday of the summer, and I will not be trading on Monday. So I don't trade on bank holidays. Bank holidays that affect the UK, the Eurozone, and the United States. So I will not be trading on Monday, but I will be back in on Tuesday, and I'll send out another update probably after the rollover on Monday when things slow down to see what kind of setups I could potentially have on Tuesday. I will be watching the charts. I will be watching on Monday. I will have the ability to get notified if something big happens on Monday, but I don't expect to be trading at all. So again, no trading in the chat room on Monday. There will be no trading in the chat room on Monday. So if you show up and nobody's there, that's the reason why. All right. Thank you.